Hello, so this is a short presentation on diagramming standards. And the goal of diagramming standards is to efficiently unpack standards, basically by drawing attention to the key components of the standard and by considering as a group all the ways in which the standard could be assessed. So diagramming is just a really efficient and visual way to do that. Here's some suggestions for when you are diagramming standards with your group. So some things to do. Definitely discuss different possibilities as a group. There's more than one way to diagram most standards. So consider each other's possibilities and be open-minded about it. Pay attention to the key verbs, to the key nouns, and to the relationships between those, because that's what's going to tell you the different ways that the standard can be assessed. And that's going to tell you the main key concepts that the students will need to understand. When you're diagramming this standards, don't worry about getting it perfect. Don't worry about there being one right answer and trying to find what that is. That's not the case. Don't spend too much time on it. I would suggest instead setting a timer, discussing the diagrams together, and then just focus on the goal of building group understanding of the standard. So here's just a checklist to think about. After you've had your discussion, ask yourself, did the team have an opportunity to think collaboratively about the standards that you were looking at? Is your understanding as a group deeper than it was at the beginning? And were you able to use your diagrams to find those ways in which the standard can be assessed and to pull out those key concepts? If you were, then you did a good job diagramming those standards. You met the goal and the purpose of this activity that we're doing. So let's talk a little bit about some standards that you might want to diagram. I've got an example we're going to look at real quick. Okay, so I wanted to look at 8.4 CR. This is a readiness standard from 8th grade. It says use data from a table or graph to determine the rate of change or slope and y-intercept in mathematical and real-world problems. So let me show you the Liz Johnson way to diagram this. And just remember, this is how I would do it. You might do it a little bit differently. Let's see. I noticed that my verb is use. I'm going to start out with use. And what am I using? I'm using data. And where is my data coming from? Well, it could come from a table or it could come from a graph. Okay. And let's see. I am then going to determine the rate of change or slope and y-intercept. Okay, so whether I have a table or a graph, I'm going to be determining something. And let's see, I might need to determine the rate of change or slope. Or I might be determining the y-intercept. And either way, I could be getting that the rate of change or slope from a graph, or I could be getting that from a table. So far, I've kind of identified 4 different ways that kids might see this on a test, but there's more. Because really kids could see any of these things in a real world context or a mathematical context. So the way I see it, there's probably about 8 different ways that the kids could see this standard. I personally like to color code. I like to make my nouns green. Let's see, so they're using data. They're using a table or a graph. They're looking for the rate of change or slope. They're looking for y-intercepts. And let's see, my verbs, I'm going to draw attention to that with blue. And this is just something I like to do, but there's a couple of verbs they're doing. They're using data and they're determining rate of change and slope. And then, you know what, I'm just because I like colors, I'm going to make this these descriptive words that tell me about the context and the type of problems they're seeing. I'm going to make those yellow. And so this gives me a really good picture of ways that kids might see this particular standard tested. Now, when I go back and look at the way that Lead Forward diagrammed this, they did it a little bit differently. And I still like Lead Forward, even though they did it differently. That's okay with me. Check it out. Let me show you their diagram. So there's mine, and you can see it there. And here's theirs. So they also split it off. So rate of change and y-intercept, mathematical and real world. But they said for all of these things, we're really using data from a table or a graph. And that makes sense to me too. And your team might come up with an entirely different diagram. Remember that our goal here is really to have an opportunity to collaboratively think about the standards, to come to a deeper understanding together, and then just to use these diagrams to identify the things that we need. Now, if you for some reason feel stuck and confused, I just wanted to let you know the readiness standards are all diagrammed at the end of this presentation by Lead Forward. Again, I don't always agree with their diagrams, but I do think they're useful and it can be helpful to look at them. And so you can look at all of those back here at the back of this presentation. There are multiple ways as well to take pictures or screenshots of your diagrams and upload them to your documents as needed. You can even create your diagrams directly within Google Drawings. I hope diagramming adds a good discussion time to our CLCs, and I thank you for watching this presentation.